There's a shoe sitting on a clearance rack right now, marked down, tagged. One of the most dominant tennis players alive wore it to win major titles, and nobody wants it. Meanwhile, somewhere across the internet, screenshots are still floating around of error pages, checkout systems that crashed under the weight of fans trying to buy a limited shirt before it vanished. Same brand, totally different story. That contrast is what we're digging into today. Because this isn't really about shoes, it's about something that's been quietly shifting in the world of sports marketing, and the tennis world is giving us one of the clearest case studies we've ever seen. Two Nike athletes. One of them is a three-time Grand Slam champion and the current world #1. The other is a 20-year-old who until about a year ago, most casual tennis fans had never heard of. And somehow, the 20-year-old is the one making Nike's marketing department look like geniuses. Let's take this from the beginning, because you need the full picture to understand how wild this actually is. Eala, full name Alexandra Eala, was born in Quezon City in the Philippines on May 23, 2005. She's 20 years old. Her mother Riza was a competitive swimmer who won a bronze medal at the 1985 SEA Games. Her father Mike is a businessman. She started with Globe Telecom as a sponsor at age 8, which should tell you something about how early people saw something in her. She trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain. Yes, that one. The same place where Nadal himself developed players. She wasn't just good, she was prodigy level good, and the people around her knew it. In 2022, she became the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles title, taking the girls category at the US Open. By 2025, still ranked around 140 in the world, she accepted a wild card into the Miami Open and did something that stopped the tennis world cold. She beat Jelena Ostapenko, then Madison Keys, then Iga Swiatek, a 5-time Grand Slam champion. 3 major champions eliminated in straight sets by a wildcard. She became the first wildcard in the history of the Miami Open to beat 3 major champions at the same tournament. In one run. The kind of thing that doesn't happen in tennis. The kind of thing that gets you on magazine covers and inside Nike headquarters. By March 31, 2025, she entered the WTA Top 100 for the first time in history as a Filipino. She is now ranked world number 31 as of late February 2026. She just visited the Nike World headquarters in Oregon days before heading to Indian Wells and the Miami Open. Her portrait is displayed in the legendary tunnel at Nike HQ alongside their global ambassadors across all sports. Her selfie with Filipino fans is on that wall, not a temporary banner, a permanent display. That's the level Nike is treating her at. Now let's talk about what Nike actually did with her brand, because the merchandise strategy tells you everything. For Wimbledon last year, Nike didn't give her a standard shoe colorway. They didn't hand her a generic outfit like they do for dozens of other players on tour. They made her a custom hair tie, a single white flower, the sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, which has been the country's official flower since 1934. They packaged it in a minimalist white box. They wrote her a handwritten message inside that said, in Filipino, kung may tinanim, may anihin, which translates to, if you plant, you will harvest. That's the message Nike sent a 20-year-old Filipino athlete before her Wimbledon debut. Not a press release, not a sponsored post, a handwritten note, and a flower that meant something. The sampaguita hair tie wasn't for sale. Nike Philippines confirmed that explicitly. One-off gift, not a commercial item. And that decision, that choice to make something meaningful and scarce rather than mass-produced and available, ended up doing more marketing work than any billboard ever could have. The image spread everywhere. The post Eala shared on Instagram drew over 125,000 likes and more than 1,700 comments in a single morning. Filipino fans didn't just share it, they talked about it. They wrote about it, they cried about it. A flower in someone's hair became a cultural moment. Then Nike went further. They commissioned Manila-based artist Georgina Cama to design a limited edition shirt for the Nike By You collection. The design features the sampaguita overlaid on the grass courts of the All England club, Wimbledon itself. The shirt dropped through Park Access, Nike's official Philippine retailer, alongside a tote bag and cap in the same design, and the response was immediate, frantic. The kind of digital stampede that usually only happens with sneaker drops from hype streetwear brands, not tennis apparel. This custom tee is a symbol of discipline, courage and full-circle growth, designed to inspire the next generation to bloom in their own time, Camus said in her Instagram post about the design. That line could not have been written by a marketing department. It reads like something a person says when they actually feel something. That is what made it work. Now let's bring in the other side of this story. Aryna Sabalenka is from Minsk, Belarus. She has been with Nike since 2017. She has won 3 Grand Slam singles titles, the 2023 Australian Open, the 2024 Australian Open, and the 2024 US Open. She defended her US Open title in 2025, beating Amanda Anisimova in the final. She is the current world #1. By every traditional measure of athletic achievement, she is the most dominant women's tennis player on the planet right now. She should be untouchable from a commercial standpoint. And yet, right now, if you visit Tennis Warehouse's website one of the most prominent tennis retail platforms in the United States, you can find Nike Zoom Vapor 12 shoes associated with Sabalenka on clearance, 33% off. Some colorways marked down from $180 to under $120. Across European tennis retailers, the Nike Zoom GP Challenge model shoes she wore during tournament runs is showing up at 35 and 40% discounts. One retailer shows a dress she wore during a slam at 51% off, tagged as outlet merchandise. Think about what that means visually. You have a 3-time major champions gear sitting on digital clearance racks, while a 20-year-old's limited shirt doesn't even make it to the point of a sale page loading properly before it's gone.
When former top American pros Sam Querrey, John Isner, and Steve Johnson discussed this on their podcast, Querrey asked a question out loud that a lot of people in tennis are privately thinking: is she the biggest draw in women's tennis right now, in the world? Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco? Steve Johnson didn't hesitate. Yes. Dude, it's crazy. Like in Australia, the court was standing room only. Then Dubai, standing room only. It's insane, it's massive. The crowd she's getting right now, like all over the world, is insane. Former pro Alison Risky Amritraj compared Eala's fan base to Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. In tennis. That's where we are.
So how do you explain this? Because on the surface it makes no sense. You have arguably the best player in the world with her shoes discounted, and a player still outside the top 30 with her merchandise selling out within minutes of dropping. It seems backwards, so let's actually walk through the mechanics of what's happening, because there are a few layers here. The first layer is inventory strategy. Nike operates a tiered distribution system, and it's actually been struggling commercially for a couple of years now. Their revenue dipped, and they've been running major promotional sales across their entire catalog. That context matters. When Nike signs a player at Sabalenka's level, they manufacture her gear at scale. Hundreds of thousands of units pushed through major retail chains, tennis specialty stores, shopping centers across the US and Europe. They expect consistent year-round visibility because she's in the draws of the biggest events all year long. The broad distribution model makes sense for a dependable global star. It guarantees a revenue floor. But the trade-off is that when even a small percentage of that mass inventory doesn't clear immediately, those units end up discounted. Availability becomes the enemy of urgency. When something is everywhere, there's no reason to rush. With Eala, Nike made different calculations: limited run, cultural specificity, regional exclusivity through a single official retailer in the Philippines, a deliberate choice to create scarcity. That manufactured scarcity, combined with an extremely passionate and emotionally engaged fanbase, produces the sellout moment that then becomes the story itself. Not just a product sold, a moment created, and in the current attention economy, a moment is worth exponentially more than consistent shelf presence. But there's a deeper layer here that goes beyond inventory math, and it's the part that's more uncomfortable to talk about. Nike has given Sabalenka player-exclusive colorways. She wore tiger-striped custom shoes at the 2025 US Open that weren't available to the public. She's been featured in major campaigns. She has an Everyone Watches Arena shirt on sale, but she does not have a signature shoe. She has been quoted in interviews saying a signature was in the works, but as of right now it hasn't materialized. That gap between her level of achievement and her level of personalized product is something fans have noticed, and the contrast to how Eala is being treated with custom cultural artifacts, personalized storytelling, Vogue Philippines shoots, her portrait at Nike headquarters makes the disparity hard to ignore. Part of this is about what a brand can actually sell with a particular athlete's story, and this is where geography and identity become commercial variables. Sabalenka represents Belarus. The geopolitical complexity around Belarus right now is real, and it has consequences that extend beyond tennis, including into sponsorship visibility and campaign ambitions in certain markets. That's not her fault, it's a structural reality, but it affects what brands can build around her story and where they can tell it. Beyond that, Sabalenka's personal brand has been built on intensity, power, a kind of ferocious competitive edge that is extraordinary to watch on a tennis court, but doesn't translate as easily into lifestyle marketing, which is where the real money lives in modern athlete endorsements. The categories that drive the biggest commercial deals right now, fashion, identity, cultural crossover, require a different kind of narrative. Winning is not enough. Roger Federer was so dominant for so long that Nike eventually lost him, and he went to Uniqlo for a massive deal that gave him more creative ownership and brand alignment. Emma Raducanu recently departed Nike to follow a similar path. Eala's story is almost perfectly engineered for the current moment, which is what makes Nike's approach to her so interesting. She's from a country with over 110 million people, a significant diaspora across North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, and a deep-seated cultural pride that attaches fiercely to its own. She trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy, a globally recognizable name that carries legitimate prestige. She became the first Filipino to do essentially everything in women's professional tennis: top 100, top 50, WTA final, wins over top 5 players, Grand Slam match victories. Every milestone was historic, and the Filipino community online and in stadiums around the world treated each one accordingly. Standing room only in Australia, Standing room only in Dubai. Fans who travel internationally to watch her play. When Nike embedded the sampaguita into her gear, first the hair tie, then the shirt, now the culture around her visits to HQ, they weren't just selling a product. They were telling a community that they see them, that they acknowledge the significance of this moment, that this 20-year-old carrying the weight of a nation's tennis history deserved something that reflected where she came from, not just where she was going. A marketing expert quoted in a regional outlet described it perfectly. This wasn't the typical Nike playbook of branded products or towering billboards. It was subtle yet powerful, and subtlety in sports marketing right now is genuinely rare. So when it appears, it gets rewarded disproportionately. The fan behavior that follows this kind of emotional branding is categorically different from the behavior that follows performance-based branding. A Sabalenka fan might buy a shirt because they like watching her play. An Eala fan buys a shirt because it's a statement, because it represents something about who they are, where they're from, what they believe is possible. That distinction sounds philosophical, but it has real commercial consequences, and those consequences are visible in clearance percentages and sellout timestamps. There's also the question of what Sabalenka's side does next. She has been one of the most decorated players of her generation. If the stories circulating about her awareness of this contrast are accurate, it becomes a leverage point. Athletes at this level notice these things. They have agents and advisors whose entire job is to notice these things. And when you win back-to-back US Opens, defend an Australian Open title, and sit at world number 1, the expectation is that your commercial standing matches your on-court achievement. When it doesn't, conversations happen. The history of athletes and major sportswear brands is full of moments where exactly this kind of friction led to significant changes. Federer leaving Nike, LeBron choosing Nike over other offers by using his leverage as the most commercially valuable basketball player alive. Coco Gauff building with New Balance in a way that gave her genuine creative partnership, including her own signature shoe before she was even 20. These decisions get made when athletes feel the gap between their value and their treatment. For now, the picture in women's tennis looks like this. The player who has already achieved everything at the top of the game has her gear discounted. The player who is still ascending, still building, still writing her story has a custom flower from her home country sewn into a hair tie that sells out before most people can load the page. One is being sold like a product, the other is being built like a legend. And here's the thing about that distinction that doesn't get said enough. Nike didn't do what they did with Eala by accident. Someone in that building looked at this 20-year-old from Quezon City, looked at the Filipino community, looked at the tears and the flags in the stands at the Miami Open, and decided to lean in, hard. The sampaguita in the hair tie wasn't a corporate idea. It was a human idea. Someone asked, what does this moment actually mean to the people who care about it most? And then they built something that answered that question instead of just slapping a logo on it. That's what sells out. That's what crashes servers. That's what gets posted on walls inside headquarters next to 60 years of global sports history. As Eala heads to Indian Wells and Miami for what could be another breakthrough run, she just reached the world number 31 ranking, already the highest any Filipino has ever been on the WTA tour. The commercial story around her is only going to grow. More milestones are coming, more firsts, more Filipino fans packing outside courts. And Nike will be right there with something carefully considered, culturally specific, and deliberately limited. Meanwhile, somewhere in a tennis warehouse, a shoe is waiting to be bought at 60% off. The scoreboard doesn't lie in tennis. Turns out it doesn't lie in marketing either. It just reads differently than most people expect. That's the story. Drop a comment if you've been following Eala this season, and let us know what tournament you think she makes her biggest splash at next. I'll see you in the next one.